Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly fascinating business case study that sits right at the intersection of cutting-edge AI and everyday physical retail. We're going to be looking at the dramatic evolution of the Andon Cafe. We'll explore exactly how they shifted from a highly publicized but financially failing AI prototype into a scalable, resilient, and highly profitable physical retail model. If you've ever wondered how AI actually bridges the gap from the digital world to the physical one, well, this is your blueprint.
To really understand the breakthrough here, we first have to understand the breakdown. Our source material digs into the mystery of their first-generation prototype, known as Mona, which launched over in Stockholm, Sweden. On paper, it was an absolute marvel, a fully AI-operated coffee shop. But in practice, it proved the massive potential of AI in retail, sure, while simultaneously exposing an operational nightmare that very nearly bankrupted the entire project. Turns out running a physical store with a purely digital brain has some pretty wild side effects.
Okay, let's dive into this with a perfectly absurd anecdote from the source that just completely encapsulates the problem. 6,000. That is the exact number of napkins the first-generation AI system hallucinated and subsequently ordered for this tiny little cafe. And not only that, it also ordered a mountain of completely useless canned goods. Why on earth would it do that? Well, because the entirely cloud-based AI lacked even a basic grasp of physical common sense. It didn't understand the physical size of the storage room, and it definitely didn't understand what items were actually useful for a coffee shop's daily grind. It was a digital genius, but a physical toddler.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The AI retail problem. 2. The cloud LLM trap. 3. The dual brain solution. 4. Front stage versus backstage operations. 5. The financial turnaround. And finally, 6. Scaling the future.
Kicking things off with sections 1 and 2, the AI retail problem and the cloud LLM trap.
To grasp the first major hurdle of dropping a cloud-based AI into a brick-and-mortar store, we've got to look at what the business plan calls the cloud LLM trap. Let's think about the reality of physical retail for a second. A store needs 24/7 continuous video stream analysis, real-time inventory checks, and constant voice interaction with customers. If you're uploading all of that heavy, continuous high-bandwidth data to a cloud-based API where you're paying by the token or by the second, your operational expenses, your OPEX, are going to absolutely explode. It eats all your profit margins instantly. Plus, you have complete network dependency. If your internet connection drops, even for a minute, your entire store is paralyzed. The POS system fails, the voice assistants go completely mute, and operations just freeze.
The business plan frames this perfectly, stating that large language models are, at their core, essentially text statisticians. They can write you the absolute most persuasive, warm, promotional copy you've ever read, but they don't understand physical space. They don't grasp the volumetric limits of a milk jug, they have no clue about food expiration dates, and they completely lack the concept of time causality. Relying on them for physical supply chain logistics directly causes immense food waste and, frankly, those totally bizarre, irrational purchasing decisions we talked about just a minute ago.
Moving right along to section 3, the dual brain solution. So, if the single brain cloud approach is a total financial and operational dead end, how exactly does the Andon Cafe V2 fix it? Well, through the JEPA World Model. JEPA stands for Joint Embedding Predictive Architecture. See, instead of just guessing the next word in a sentence like your standard LLM, a JEPA model actually predicts physical dynamics. It understands 3D boundaries, consumption speeds, and the cause and effect of time. It basically gives the system the grounded physical intuition that a basic text LLM is completely missing. This is what fundamentally prevents the AI from ordering 6,000 napkins. It actually understands the spatial limits of the cafe's back room.
But to actually run this effectively without racking up astronomical cloud costs, you need the right hardware. Enter the RTX Spark Edge Computing Hub. This beast is deployed directly inside the store. We are talking 128 gigabytes of unified memory and one entire petaflop of local computing power. By shifting the computing muscle directly onto the premises, the system can process 80% of its video and voice data entirely on-site. It completely cuts off that cloud API black hole. And from a purely business perspective, it cleverly turns an endless recurring operational expense into a one-time depreciable capital asset. Pretty smart.
All right, section 4, front stage versus backstage. With the hardware and software figured out, let's look at how these pieces actually work together in the real world. The business plan describes this as a true dual brain synergy. Up front, you've got your front stage brain. That's your LLM.
It plays the role of the charismatic store manager. It handles public relations, writes the social media posts, engages in super warm voice chats with the customers, and it even conducts initial barista interviews. But behind the scenes, you have the backstage brain, the JEPA model. It acts as the strict, highly logical supply chain director. It uses the store's CCTV streams to dynamically recognize exactly how much milk and how many coffee beans are left by volume. It calculates the optimal order times based on consumption history, and it acts as an interceptor, totally blocking those illogical, hallucinated orders before they ever happen.
Now for the really fun part, Section 5, the financial turnaround. The technology sounds brilliant, right? But does it actually work on a balance sheet? Let's take a look at a projected monthly cost comparison for a single cafe producing about 300 cups a day. The V1 Mona prototype relied entirely on the cloud, whereas V2 uses the local Spark hub and the JEPA model. Just look at the waste column for a second. Because the V1 system suffered from hallucinations and ordered expired or excess goods, monthly waste costs were sitting at $1,200. The V2 system, possessing actual physical intuition and tracking stock via CCTV, drops that waste down to just $150. That keeps waste under 2%. Network costs also plummet from $400 down to $80, since it only needs to transmit structured data reports up to the cloud rather than streaming high-definition 24/7 video.
And this illustrates the overall impact beautifully. The V1 system's total monthly tech operations were costing an unsustainable $5,100. The V2 architecture brings that all the way down to just $630. That is a massive net savings of $4,470 every single month, simply by changing the AI architecture from a cloud dependency to edge computing.
Now, the absolute biggest driver of that savings was the compute and API fees. By moving the brain locally into the store, they reduced AI compute costs by a staggering 95.7%. It went from a prohibitive $3,500 a month down to just $150, which mostly just accounts for local electricity and some minimal cloud calling for the really complex tasks. It literally completely eliminates the crushing weight of those cloud computing bills. Because of these massive cost reductions, the Andon Cafe V2 is no longer just a cool tech demo. It is a highly viable business model. The business plan projects that a single V2 cafe will actually reach break-even profitability in just 6.5 months. They've managed to transform AI retail from a money-burning novelty into a high-margin, modern business. If you're an operator in physical retail, this is the exact metric that proves AI isn't just a gimmick. It is a fundamental margin multiplier.
Finally, Section 6, Scaling the Future.
How does a highly intelligent store expand, and more importantly, how does it survive the utter chaos of the real world? The source outlines this incredible offline defense mechanism. Let's say a regional internet outage hits, which would be an absolute death sentence for the V1 store. In V2, the local RTX Spark Compute Hub just seamlessly takes over. The POS system stays up, the supply chain world model continues to monitor the store perfectly, logistics orders are simply saved locally on the hard drive, and when the internet eventually comes back online, it automatically syncs right back up with the central servers. It ensures the store practically never goes offline. And when they want to open a new location, they don't need to configure some massive new cloud pipeline. They literally just buy another piece of hardware, load the model weights, and they're ready to go. The marginal cost of expansion is incredibly low.
The data from the Andon Cafe makes one thing absolutely crystal clear. Running physical retail requires a whole lot more than just a chatbot. It requires a system that actually understands the physical space it occupies. It demands a true synergy between conversational intelligence and grounded physical intuition. So as we watch AI continue to rapidly integrate into our physical world, it leaves us with a pretty compelling question to ponder. Will the future of physical retail be run by a smooth-talking virtual consultant or a grounded, physics-aware digital store manager? The answer to that is probably going to redefine how we shop entirely. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.